Okay, folks, here we go. Zoopla's UK house price index. We're going to go over some numbers today. This is the UK house price index for Zoopla up to the beginning of December 2023. So we're going to go over some executive summary. We're going to go over as well some of the information. I'm also going to go over maybe a prediction for property prices in 2024 towards the end. But this is key data that Zoopla take into account every single time. Now, as far as I'm concerned, the one it benefits us the most is the UK House Price Index produced by the Office of National Statistics. The next one I would say is the UK House Price Index produced by Zoopla, because that's up-to-date information. That's real-time information based on the data they gather as property portals. Now, the key here as well is UK in terms of the Halifax House Price Index and the Nationwide House Price Index. I don't really rate them at all because that's only based on their particular customers. I mean, most people all know that anyway, but let's go over some headline data in terms of the numbers itself. I'll go over the executive summary, we'll skim over it, and we'll be finished in about 15 to 20 minutes. Okay, let me just share the screen here. And here we go. So, okay, so the executive summary is, according to Zoopla, annual house price inflation is down minus 1.1%, down from a plus 7.2% a year ago. That's no surprise, remember, base rates have gone up, inflation has gone up, and base rates have gone up to counteract that as well. Unemployment still remains flat and level, which is actually pretty good. Unemployment levels at 4.2% overall. Market sentiment, according to Zoopla, improving with new sales agreed at plus 17% year on year. House price falls starting to moderate as sales improve. Mortgage regulations a key reason for only modest price falls in 2023, along with a strong labour market. That's what I said before. The unemployment rate is actually extremely low, and rapid earnings growth as well. That's another key indicator in the economy. Key indicators to watch out for are as inflation, as base rates, as unemployment rate, and also the earnings growth as well. These are the four key indicators to watch out for. The first three, I would say the most important three, are inflation, base rates, interest rates to you, and an unemployment rate. The earnings rate as well will have an influence potentially on the inflation rate if earnings begin to overtake inflation, which they are. So the other key information that Zoopla says first-time buyers are the largest group of would-be movers in the next 2 years, they think, 40%, followed by upsizers, 34% of that market. Also, half of buyers living in the southern England looking to move greater than 10 miles in search of better value for money. So here's the key indicator here right now, is Zoopla's just actually pointing out to you. The peripheries outside of the expensive areas are the key areas that people are actually looking to move now, and they are going up to greater than 10 miles away from the key areas that they want to live in, or they need to work in order to get more affordable accommodation and actually just commute into work. That's a normal practice. Somebody actually said to me, I can't afford to live in St Andrews. And I went, I can't afford to live in St Andrews either, but I just commute into St Andrews if I need to do some work, and I come back out and I live in a more affordable area. Absolutely. And also, Zoopla goes on as well to say that house prices, they reckon house prices will fall 2% over 2024 with 1 million transactional sales overall. That's the health of the housing market overall. Okay, so house prices to fall 2% overall. Now, remember, that's house prices right across the UK. England and London have a huge factor in that, and I know England and London will be up to 5% fall next year. However, Scotland will remain very resilient overall, and Fife in particular will be quite resilient overall as well because they're affordable areas. Let's look at a quick graph. It'll show you this and see what Zoopla is saying to this. Okay, so this graph explains right here. Stronger into 2023 than last year and pre-pandemic as well. This is the black is versus 2019, in other words, 2023 versus 2019. The purple is versus 2022, which is the year before. So you can see their buyer demand has actually gone up versus 2022, actually gone down since it's versus 2019, gone up and number of sales agreed by 17%, according to Zoopla. So it's actually quite positive news on his horizon in terms of the affordability, and also the transactional level. Flow of new supply, even Stevens for both times, and stock of homes for sale. There's a far more homes for sale than there was in 2022. No surprise. There's about 1,000 properties over the Fife property market, for example, up for sale at this point in time. I'm going to take a quick look at Zoopla. Just bear with me, just to look at the number of properties on with Zoopla right now. Zoopla. Let me just jump on the for sale and just look at the number of properties across Fife. Number of properties for sale across Fife, 908. So 908 properties are across Fife up for sale right now. That is no surprise as well. That then gives us a strong indication of where the market is. The market is actually the restriction of the supply will end up pushing up prices and maintain the price points as well. Up to about 250,000 is going very, very well in terms of sales value. Anything beyond 250,000 is still experiencing a challenge, and it's mainly down to interest rates and base rates being historically high in comparison to the last 10 years. Once the base rates and UK interest rates and mortgage rates begin to fall a bit, so we reckon when base rates begin to fall to around about 4.5% or less, base rates overall, if inflation starts to come down, and it continues to come down to an acceptable level, in the Bank of England's opinion, which is usually around 2%, then they'll decrease base rates. Base rates come down to 4.5%. We'll see better mortgage rates for the upper quartile, which is the 25%, the largest price points in the property market. The upper quartile will begin to be released because they'll be more affordable to people overall, because their mortgage rates will have come down as well. Affordability levels month by month will be a lot better. That's why the upper quartile will begin to move if base rates come down, if inflation continues to come down as well overall. Zoopla goes on to say the sales have held up in the first quarter, sales to hold up in quarter four of 2023, providing support for prices. The final weeks of the 2023 have recorded above average levels of sales, according to Zoopla. There you go. As people are beginning to realise there's not going to be any crash, you need to get buying now, because property prices in Scotland in particular, and Fife in particular, will probably increase next year overall. So 17% higher than a year ago, and ahead of the number of sales recorded above average new levels, and ahead of 2019 levels, according to Zoopla. Market sentiment is improving due to rising incomes and the initial decline in mortgage rates overall. An increase in available supply up a quarter on last year is also boosting choice and supporting sales overall. So buyers and sellers are becoming more aligned on pricing, reducing and downward pressure on values. Zoopla's headline UK price index has recorded a slower pace of annual house price decline at minus 1.1% in the November 2023, down from 7.2% a year ago. The level of price falls, according to Zoopla, have now moderated across all regions and countries of the UK, and I would wholeheartedly agree with that. They go on to say house price indices diverge at market turning points. What do they mean by that? Well, UK house prices indices track well over time. That's the track of the UK house prices that go up. So if you look from 1984 and you look at all the prices, it tends to go up in a curve, like an upside down hockey stick in terms of, it goes up in a curve in terms of the price points itself, and the mix of sales change are due. The Zoopla UK House Price Index is based on the largest data set of any UK house price index itself. It has performed in line with the Office of National Statistics House Price Index, with both the series, including the cash and mortgage sales. So they're on a parity with the Office of National Statistics sales and numbers as well. And that shows you a strong correlation between the both of them. That's why I've got a lot of confidence in the Zoopla indices as well, because it is the whole of market, and it does use most estate agents that are actually listed on it. So they have a huge amount of key data. Now, Zoopla go on to say cash purchases, for example, look set to account for a third of all sales in 2023, when it's closing off, are an important source of pricing evidence. The average price of a cash purchase is 10% lower than the average mortgage-funded sale. This makes the cash purchase slightly more affordable, and they're likely to require more modest price reductions to attract demand. So mortgage sales are on track to be 30% lower than 2023 as higher mortgage rates hit demand. The mortgage lender house price indices respond quickly to weaker demand, recording steeper price falls over 2022 quarter four to 2023, the first half of 2023. However, annual growth rate for the lender series has improved in recent months as market activity and pricing stabilized, bringing the annual growth rate back towards the Zoopla and Office of National Statistics series. Got a quick graph for that actually, which will show you that in comparison. Here we go here. So this is the Zoopla indices here in the purple. So you see the purple line here, that's our indices from 2013, as you see, and the way it tracks in terms of the house price indices. Office of the National Statistics is the pink, I would say, similar to the Zoopla, falls in line with them. See how that strong correlation's made there? And then the mortgage lender average is the black line, which, is slightly out a wee bit in terms of comparison. Hence the reason why Halifax and nationwide indices is not really my thing. It's not something I want to put too much faith in because of just that disparity in terms of the correlation between Zoopla and the Office of National Statistics overall. So this then begs the question, why haven't house prices then fallen by more in 2023? Well, history would suggest that mortgage rates rising from 2% to over 5% would have led to larger price falls than what has been recorded over 2023 overall. They have several reasons why prices have defied predictions from the larger falls. The strength of the labour market has been important, along with high earnings growth. So, earnings growth is the salary increases year on year. So, the average is 7.4%, taking into account NHS increases coming through and local authority and public servants and public workers' wage growth as well. That's come through at 7.4%. Inflation is historically low at around about 3.6% overall. Therefore, the high labour market as well, with the restriction the number of not properties but jobs available, and the number of people looking for jobs is actually, there's less jobs available than people looking for jobs right now. So demand is still outstripping supply in terms of the jobs market, which makes wage negotiation go higher as a result, because people are needing to attract new talent to their work, and it's difficult to get people still to accommodate, because I think the main impact for that is possibly Brexit and the fact that we're not bringing enough people now in order to support our services and to support our works. That therefore is boosting that decrease in the jobs market. Therefore, that's increasing pressure on wage negotiations, pushing wages higher as a result. How that pans out is another story in the year to come, because that could have an implication and effects on inflation, as more money is chasing too few goods again. Therefore, inflation might continue to go up. Now, there's key indicators in inflation indices if you've actually read them. The reason that inflation has come down month on month or year on year is because petrol prices have come down at the pump, and everybody can see that because they've gone below 150 per litre. However, food inflation is still historically higher, and it comparable to the European market as well. We're still historically higher at food inflation, around about 9.2% year on year. So we've still got, and that's mainly driven by the fact that we have to import a lot of goods into our country. And that could have a bearing overall on inflation and might keep it high and might keep it at a level of around about the 4%. Therefore, the Bank of England might be reluctant as a result to reduce base rates to try and curb inflation more. Their remit is to get inflation under control, and the one way they can get that under control, as far as they're concerned, is to continue to keep base rates historically high in comparison to where it was the 5 or 10 years ago. Zoopla say perhaps the most important factor here has been the tougher mortgage affordability test for new borrowers since 2015. This has also made it really easy, and the banks have become very liquid as a result of that. Therefore, they've been able to still lend and still provide credit for people for mortgages. The regulations were designed to stop householders taking excessive amount of debt at a time of low mortgage rates. They have actually stopped a major housing overvaluation. So you think the housing valuation's overvalued right now, but in actual fact, it probably could have been worse if the mortgage affordability tests that had been put in place in 2014, 2015, the stress testing, hadn't still maintained today. And they still are in place today. Most people that go for a mortgage right now are stress tested around about the 8 or 10% level, if not a wee bit higher. And that's still keeping the mortgage affordability under control and also property prices under control as well. Because it could have been worse. House prices would have been a lot bigger as a result. This has actually built resilience for many households and to manage the transition to higher mortgage rates when they've actually come out of fixed rate deals. While mortgage rates have got as low as 1.3% in late 2021, all new mortgage borrowers will have to prove to their bank they can afford the 6 and 7% stressed mortgage rates on the loans. Let's have a wee look at this chart to actually emphasize where that's actually gone. This actually shows you it right here. So this is mortgage stress testing limited, cheap mortgage boosting prices. So in new level mortgages, you can see that there, 75% loan to value over 5 years is a way down below, but you can see the stress testing rate is a way higher as the purple. So people have been getting mortgages in the black line. See that? You can see that there, and as it goes up, and then but the stress testing has been taking place at the purple line, which is a way higher as a result. So you can see up there, there's round about 8 and 9% stress testing happening up at that top right hand corner there right now. But mortgage rates are still around about the 5% level. So that's where the resilience in the property market has been actually beneficial overall. These regulations have effectively capped buying power for home buyers. Now, you might think that's not a good thing, but it has to a degree because it's let buyers actually not go beyond their means. Therefore, when interest rates have begun to go back up, they've been able to afford it. So we've seen absolutely zero repossessions, more than likely. It's very, very few as a result of that. I mean, the fact that the regulations effectively cap the buying power for buyers, they require the borrower to have a higher income to buy and put down a larger deposit overall, which is especially true in higher value housing markets. This is the Office of National Statistics data. It shows that first-time buyers in London in particular have put down an average deposit of 145,000 in 2022 compared to 26,000 for those buying in the northeast. Completely different markets. You could see that. So they've got to have a universal one-size-fits-all policy. That's why it's quite difficult for them to do that. So this is why they put the stress testing in place overall for everybody. Today's lenders, for example, are stress testing new borrowers close to the 9%, despite mortgage rates starting to fall regardless. This regulatory constraint on buying power is one reason that Zoopla believe that house prices are unlikely to rise in 2024, even as base rates start to fall in the year as a result. So, where do we see things and where do first-time buyers, why is first-time buyers, why did they actually remain the largest buyer group in 2024, and why does Zoopla think that? Well, despite the affordability challenges, people are going to say the first-time buyers, they're the largest group of would-be buyers, which is great for the health of the property market because you need the first-time buyers to come in to buy to allow people to upgrade to all the different levels. It's a natural circle of life in terms of the property cycle. Zoopla's latest consumer survey found that 40% of people looking to buy a home in the next 2 years are actually first-time buyers. The rapid growth in rents continues to motivate this group. Average rents have risen faster than the average mortgage repayments over the last 3 years, and despite larger deposits. Upsizers accounts for a third of would-be buyers in the next 2 years, who will typically be buying a larger home and it will require a larger mortgage. Now, the upsizers is more than likely as a result of the first-time buyers coming and allow them to upgrade. Buy-to-let landlords have almost disappeared. I would hate to say it, but they've been definitely put off by regulation, legislation, and rent controls, especially in Scotland. So buy-to-let landlords will no longer be able to support this market at the lower end, therefore allowing people to upgrade. So we'll need to rely on first-time buyers now coming into the market and make that a healthy proposition for them. Upsizers account for a third of would-be buyers in the next 2 years, as they said in Zoopla. The group have been biding their time in 2023, waiting for the outlook on the economy and the mortgage rates to become clearer. The trajectory for mortgage rates are getting better value for money will be the key considerations for upsizers in 2024. That's key here. Let's show you how today's would-be buyers describe their status and requirements. Got a wee graph for this. Here it is right here. So you can see there, today's would-be buyers describing their status and requirements. 40% first-time buyers is the first one. The next one is upsizers, 34%. Moving to a smaller home is 15%. Moving to a different location, 23%. And 9% looking for a particular feature. That's the split of the buyer market right now, how they describe themselves. So people upsizing and first-time buyers are the main markets that will drive this forward in the next year or even 2 years. Buyers are looking further afield for better value. There's no doubt about that. Almost a quarter of would-be home buyers across the UK itself say that they're looking to move to a different location. A high proportion of home movers tend to be limited to within local areas. The average distance buyers are looking to move when searching on Zoopla's website, for example, is 4.3 miles. However, in the face of higher borrowing costs and the search for value, one of the key trends for 2024 will be buyers continue to look further afield in search of better value outside of their area. This is particularly in the case of high value housing markets where upsizing is very expensive. Zoopla's data actually goes on to show that over up to half of would-be movers currently living in the southern regions, for example, in the England area, are looking to move more than 10 miles. The proportion looking at longer distances in other parts of the UK is actually a bit lower. Because of affordability, Scotland in particular, the average price in Scotland is still about 190,000. The average price in London is sitting at 450 to 500,000. That's a huge different comparable here. So you're not really comparing apples with apples when you're comparing London against Scotland or even against Fife itself. Zoopla go on to say this is important that home builders and estate agents who tend to focus on demand and the needs of local areas, whereas there is a need to capture and nurture the demand coming from further afield, especially as the buyers may well have more money to spend. Now, we've particularly seen that over the last year with the highest amount of buyers going onto our website tend to be from London, Edinburgh, Glasgow, Dundee, Perth, all the big cities in terms of the numbers coming onto our website and analytics in the last year, and this year coming as well, will more than likely be from areas outside of here, as Zoopla said right here, as buyers are now selling up and they're moving to areas which they find more affordable, possibly to release some money and actually have a better quality of life for them and their family, and also possibly to actually be more affordable to run in terms of running costs as well overall. So what is the outlook for 2024? Well, Zoopla going to say they expect steady momentum in new sales that has developed over the final part of 2023 to continue into early 2024. With the usual seasonal rebound in demand over quarter one as pent-up demand returns to the market, there's no surprise that a lot of people have actually been restricting what they've been putting on the market right now, and they've been waiting for next year to happen. And this is why the Boxing Day bounce, which is today, is particularly important, because if you're on the internet right now, you've got a lot of eyeballs on your property at this moment in time for that very reason, because people have now, Christmas is finished and they're now looking towards the new year and planning for that as well. And more than likely, what mostly comes into that is house moves and house sales, house buying, house sales, and moving as well overall. The rental market as well is particularly pent-up demand all in there, and that will continue to be resilient in 2024 as well. So Zoopla go on to say, while mortgage rates are edging lower, affordability remains a key challenge for mortgage-reliant households who are making home moving decisions. The impact of the higher mortgage rates continues to feed through, with half of mortgagees yet to move onto higher rates from cheaper fixed rate deals agreed before 2022. So over about 50% of people are still coming out of their mortgage rate deals in the next year or two, and are actually going to move on to higher rate deals. Now, by that time that comes, you never know. There's a prediction from the Bank of England, well, not the Bank of England, but some of the think tanks, to say that mortgage rates, they expect mortgage rates possibly to reduce next year, and therefore a more affordability will come back into the marketplace again. So you might actually miss it if you're coming out a fixed rate deal in the next 2 or 3 years completely. It might actually come out of the same deal, more or less. So the final is the modest decline in house prices over the year means UK housing looks still 10 to 15% overvalued at the end of 2023, according to Zoopla. They expect the position to improve over 2024 as incomes rise and house prices drift 2% lower over the year, according to them, overall, right throughout the UK. Sales volumes are expected to hold steady at 1 million sales completions over 2024, which is actually quite important. Sales volumes is the health of the property market overall. And while house prices can be benchmarked and people continue to focus on house prices, it's really a like for like circumstance. You're going to sell a house and you're going to buy a house, whether it's reduced by 10%, yours is reduced by 10%. So it's comparing like with like. If yours has gone up by 10%, theirs will have gone up by 10%. So you're comparing like with like. The only way you're going to make money out of house prices is actually using house prices to invest in, and that's buy to let and investor landlords. Overall, that's the only way people make money out of house prices increases or decreases or whatever it is. The health of the property market overall for people selling and buying tends to be the transactional numbers, because that then drives the whole economy and keeps employment steady as well. So you want really 1 million sales last year and 1 million sales next year as well, because it maintains all the existing jobs that are there as a result of that, and therefore it's a healthy economy overall. Therefore, people continue to buy houses, people continue to rent houses at the same level as before. No massive swings, no massive decreases, anything like that. Stable going forward from here is probably the right prediction. In terms of Fife property prices, Fife is still extremely affordable. And I would predict, because of these circumstances and because if inflation continues to drop, if base rates will drop as a result of that, if unemployment still stays at the same level and employment's actually at a high level, employment overall, and wage negotiations still are really good as well in the coming year. Therefore, I would predict that Fife property prices particularly will move up between 1 and 3% next year. Possibly could hit 5, you never know. But I think 1 and 3% is more tolerable overall. And that's probably a more stable environment to be in. House prices in Scotland in particular, and in Fife in particular, over the last, I think, 20 or 30 years is actually only, they've gone up on average 3 and 4% every single year on average. So it's no surprise then that between 1 and 3% would be the average for the coming year in 2024. I hope that's given you a good insight into the property market overall, in terms of where Zoopla see it, in terms of where I see it as well. And if you need any more information, please feel free to message us direct. And until next time, guys, I'm Jim Parker for Fife Properties TV. Have a great new year.